What's up, good people? I'm just Major. Just here to talk to you real quick for a quick minute about Beyond Meat and them possibly, filing for bankruptcy. Even though Beyond Meat say that they are not filing for bankruptcy, and they, of course, have not filed for bankruptcy. But different analysts, are saying that they are really struggling with money and finances and cash reserves. So and then this year, second quarter of this year, 2025, their revenue has dropped 20% down to 75 million, which means that doing the numbers, after I did the numbers, that means that they were right under about 95 million. I think that brings it to about 93.75 million to be exact, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not doing my numbers wrong. But so 93.75 million dropping down to 75 million, which is 20%. And then they only have about, I think, 110 million in cash, but then there are 1.2 billion in debt. So they only have about 10% of their total debt that they're in. So in layman's terms, that's like, you or me having a credit card and we're, 90% using 90% of the card. So it's like a 90% debt to cash ratio, so to speak, which is not good. And then I see that they are, paying debtors, a little bit late. I think that at some point last year they went from paying 7 days late to now I think about 19 days late, if I remember correctly. And on average, paying your debts as a business, the average number of days late is about 12 days late. So yeah, they're in a little bit of trouble, and they're hurting for cash. So it's not easy, trying to start a company as I've done, and trying to make sure you have funding correctly and trying to do the right business, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but kind of reinventing how the wheel is shaped, so to speak. But yeah, so Beyond Meat having a little bit of struggles with their cash, and they're on the stock market. Their stock price, I think, has dropped nearly 90%. I think last I saw they were just under $3. And then 2 years ago, when I used to just look at the stock on a regular basis, about 2 years ago, I think the stock was at about $10 a share. But their IPO, their first day, I can't remember what their stock price was, but I remember hearing that the stock jumped, nearly 200% for that day. So I'm pretty sure, at record lows for their stock. If they're not at a 52-week low, they're probably getting close to it. But yeah, and then too, with plant-based meats, you got other competitors. So when people see that your brand is doing well versus what's typically out there, like plant-based versus, red meat, then you get companies like Impossible Foods coming along and doing the same thing. So now they're pretty much, following in your footsteps, where you're in grocery stores, now Impossible Foods in grocery stores. You're at fast food joints, Impossible Foods is in fast food joints. So the market kind of becomes scarce, where it wasn't a big market after all. I mean, and you're going after people or customers where, I mean, what, hundreds of years maybe, not necessarily hundreds of years, but close to 100 years or so, people have been eating red meat, hunting, killing, eating, that kind of thing has been red meat. So you're going after that market, and it's a tough sell. It really is. Now, granted, the world is getting healthier and the life expectancy is rising, but yes, you still get people that are, let's say for instance, their life expectancy is rising because they're eating healthy. They may not be eating healthy every single day. Yes, you have your vegetarians and then you have your vegans, but then you have somebody like me. I'll eat. I'll buy a Beyond Meat. Especially their sausage links, or I can use them like hot dogs. My wife and I we'll cook them. Spruce them up a little bit, and then put them on a hot dog bun, and they're pretty good. I don't eat hot dogs now. But then if we have a hot dog like on a Monday, then on a Wednesday we might have a burger, from Beyond Meat as well. But then when we eating out on the weekend, my wife, she'll enjoy a steak. She loves red meat because of, her blood. And, she's, pretty much, she needs to eat red meat in order to keep her iron systems, fairly high and fairly, up to par. So she has to have red meat. Me, I don't have to have red meat like that for my iron levels to be high. So, but if my wife eats a steak when we go out on the weekend, and then I might switch it up and get something that I love, which is, sea bass or halibut. So, something wild caught. So we might switch it up like that. So I've gone from plant-based Monday and Wednesday to eating meat on both my wife and I on the weekend if we go out to eat. So it's a tough market to sell when you're trying to reach people who are used to eating meat and have done it so long. And it's just really tough to do for someone to have someone like me even who really likes Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods. And it's really kind of tough for us to eat that every single day. So yes, my wife and I eat really healthy. We work out, we fast almost on a daily basis, pretty much doing an intermittent fast every day, at least 12 hours, if not more. So yeah, it's a tough goal for Beyond Meat, but I am cheering for them. I'm highly rooting for them. And if they're facing these headwinds and tumultuous times, I'm sure other brands like Impossible Foods, if they're not facing those times, or those tough times, they're probably on the way. So yeah, I mean, it's really tough, but I am rooting for Beyond Meat, and I hope they can right the ship. And I don't know, maybe that 110 million that they have, maybe they can, try to do something like partner with Whole Foods or Kroger here in the Southeast where the stores are closing. Maybe they can try to partner up something where they, I don't know, do something with the store, buy the store, or go in half on the store, try to save the store, have maybe primarily, their brands in the store or something like that versus other, brands or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's tough. And then, they're cutting back on the sales force. I think they cut back like 6% of their, not sales force, but 6% of their staff. So 6% isn't much. However, when you're losing 20% of your business on a quarterly basis, man, it's going to be really, really tough to keep on, different staff and all your staff. So yeah. But like I said, Beyond Meat could be facing bankruptcy. I hope not. I hope they right the ship. I really love their foods and their brands, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just Major, man. Y'all have a good one.